All right, folks. So I thought I'd do a Patreon only video while the band is being worked on. I actually have it over at AJ's. They're re-gearing it right now. So I'm staying with my buddy Scott for a couple of days while that's happening. So I thought we'd take an opportunity here for me to show you guys a little bit on how I use Gaia to plan some of my trips. I think I'll make this probably a 2-video series in the fact that what I'm going to show you today is going to be from my laptop and using the web browser versus using my tablet, which is got Gaia on it. And this is the tablet that I keep in the van or the truck, depending on which vehicle I'm in, and has everything in it. Now, the one thing I like about Gaia and other mapping softwares, a lot of the other big name mapping softwares also do this, is that it's cloud-based. So anything I do on the laptop will automatically transfer through the cloud to my tablet, and this vice versa. Anything I do on the tablet will transfer vice versa to my laptop when I'm signed into my account. So anyways, let's get started. And so the goal of this is not so much to be a tutorial, but hopefully you guys will learn a few things about this. As more, I want you guys to see how I use the program to plan my trips. So let's get started. So first thing I did is I logged into Gaia, and I have the map up on the screen here, the main map. And as you can see, I've got lots and lots and lots and lots of waypoints saved on my map of places I've been or places that I want to go to. So we're going to start kind of with that. Now, the first thing I kind of want to show you is, if you're like following my mouse here, is look along this side here, and there's a few different options. You have your zoom in, zoom out. This will find where you're at based off, your internet connection, cell tower being the fact that you're doing it on here. If you actually, use this button on your tablet, it will find you exactly where you are as long as you have your location services turned on. So you have your map layers, your layers and overlays, and this is where we're really going to spend a lot of time today. And then you got where you can manage your waypoints. I don't actually use this here. I typically go up over here and drop down and manage my waypoints by using the drop down over here. You can print the map, which I don't ever do, because mainly I use the tablet for everything. So I don't ever print my maps. But then you also have the ability to create a waypoint, create a route, and create an area. Now, I don't really use the area function. It's just not something that, but it might be something you guys want to play around with, but it's not something that I ever use. The two main ones that I use here are the, create waypoint and the create route. And I use the create route a lot to help me figure out my trips that I go on. So first thing I want to kind of start off with is the map layers. A lot of people ask me, how do I figure out what is public and private land here in the West? Well, part of that is by opening up my map layers and having this particular layer here turned on, which is Neotrex land use. So what I want to show you guys is the main layers that I use when I'm figuring out trips. So the first layer here that I have on is the motor vehicle use management map. And if I zoom into my map here to an area where I know there is a lot of motor vehicle management, you can see the layer comes on, and it's just an overlay layer of my map. So this is going to tell me, the areas that has seasonal closures and that you can't drive the roads. And it's very informative. So like if I kind of come down in here and now I click on this road, you can see it gives me all the dates and stuff that road is closed. Now this particular road is open all year round, looks like, for all the uses, so that it has no closures. So if I click on this road here, you can see that there's certain times of the year that it's not open. So open ATVs, April 1st through September 27th. And then there's a gap here that would be closed, and then it's open again 10/14 through 11/30, and then it would be closed again through until April 4th. So this would tell me, I can see that pretty easily, that road is closed. So that's a good one to use, especially if you're going into areas that you don't know. Check to see if they have a motor vehicle use map that you can put on here. So like this one here, and it's not, this one's just not for Oregon. This is for US Forest Service. So it's giving you all those closures. And if I come right over here onto the exclamation point, I can actually get information about that overlay. So here it's telling me what the map is. And then I can also see a legend, and it tells me what all the different markers and information on that is. So, really helpful. And all the maps have that. So this one here, this is another overlay that I use. Probably not so much be useful to people that are overlanding. This is wildlife management units. So here in Oregon, the state's broken up into different units for hunting. So this one here tells me what the boundaries of all the different units are. And so I use it a little bit, but not so much probably for overlanding. And then, like I said earlier, this is the overlay that I particularly use to figure out what is BLM and what is public land and what is private land. So again, I can click here. It gives me information about this map. It says this layer shows ownership boundaries for federal, state, local, municipal, and private lands. And then it does give me a nice legend here showing me what all the shaded areas mean. So like if I look, I can see that this green that I'm looking at right here on this map is national forest. And then this tan color here is BLM. And it's also telling me right on the map, Vail District BLM land. So I know that's public land. But here, you take a look at this strip right through here that is white, that is private land. So I know that is private land. So I know to try to work around that. So when I'm looking at the state, we zoom out here a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead, just for fun and games, I'm going to turn off this layer. So any layer can be turned on or off by moving the slider. This is an opacity slider. So if I wanted to leave it partly on, I could just turn down the opacity. Usually I just turn them completely off if I want them out of the way. But so I can look at more of a wide version of Oregon here, and you can see by looking at this how much public land we have in Oregon. So let's try to go all the way out to where we can see the whole state. So there we go. So now we can pretty much see all of Oregon, and you can just see all the green and brown and shades of green. And that will basically tells you like how much public land we have in Oregon to play on. And that's awesome. So, but you do have to pay attention because like say we zoom in here and you can see that there is a lot of private land kind of intermixed into the public land. And some public land like this one here, that's public land, but it's completely landlocked. And I don't know if there's any easements that will actually allow you to get in there. I can see roads. And this looks like a pretty main road, so I would say that you probably are okay to drive this road through the private land to get in here. But, that's going to take boots on the ground to kind of figure that out a little bit. Some of that stuff is not necessarily completely discernible just by looking at the map. But like I said, you can see that there is a ton of public land. So I use this map layer a lot for planning my trips. And when you're looking at the map layers down through here, so you can see all these are all hidden layers. These are layers I don't have turned on. They're all available, and I could turn them on, but I don't have them turned on. And if I did want to turn one on, like say this one, it's just a matter of clicking the button, and then you'll see it adds it to your layers up here. And now you can see that is on the top, so now it's the layer showing. And if I turn the opacity slider back all the way down, you can see my other layer come back through. And again, you can kind of adjust this around to where you can have different levels of each layer showing. But I find for myself, I just turn them all the way off. If I don't want a layer, I can just uncheck the box and the layer goes away and it goes back down in here to my hidden layers. So again, we're going to kind of keep moving through. So another layer that I use, this one really helps tell me the different public lands, but sometimes I can find a little bit more detailed information using the USGS topo. And it shows a little bit of shading for public and private lands, but what it really does show is a lot more like topo information, and sometimes has just more information on the map about the roads and the road numbers and things like that. So it's just a little bit more of a detailed map. So sometimes I will once I kind of determine an area is public land and I'm going to go through it, then I may turn off my NeoTracks land use and kind of start looking through some of the topography and really get a figure for what's going on in that area, and also maybe find some roads or some information on the map that wasn't available on the NeoTracks land use one. The other layer I use a lot is just, of course, a satellite image, which is basically satellite images from Google Earth. And sometimes I just want to see if I can kind of look at the satellite image and get a better idea of what the area looks like. So here we're kind of in the Alvord Desert. We just happen to be right over the Alvord. This is the place I like to go a lot. So I can kind of look and see what that looks like from a satellite perspective. And then again, I can always turn on one of my other layers and just, verify what is public and private land. So those are the layers that I use mainly in the map. So for overlanding, motor vehicle use, NeoTracks land use, USGS topo, and satellite. Now there are some other layers in here that will show you private land information, but I've looked at them: public land use, public land US, and private land US. I've looked at them, and just me personally, I like the NeoTracks land use better. I kind of like the way those maps look a little better. So, but you might play with them and see which one you prefer. So now that you've kind of figured out what maps that I use, now let's kind of figure out and plan a short trip. So let's say I'm looking at the map, and a lot of times I just kind of look at the map area and look for areas that look interesting. So I kind of go down. So looking, staying within Oregon here, let's find some area that looks like I haven't spent a lot of time in, and see if we can find something interesting. So looking this area here, I haven't spent a lot of time in there, and let's see, down kind of towards this area, it doesn't look like I've spent much time along in here. And there looks like and one of the things I'm looking for is, does the area look like it has a lot of BLM or national forest in it? If it doesn't have a lot of BLM and national forest, then I don't really want to go in there. So let's if I go scrolling out here, I'm using my mouse wheel to scroll, and let's say I come up here. Well, I can see that there's a lot of area that I haven't been in, but I can also see that there is very little public land here for me to spend much time in. So I'm just probably not gonna spend much time there. I'm gonna focus on areas that have lots of public land. So anyways, we're gonna go down in here, and let's just say that I find something. I'm scrolling through, and let's find something that might be of interest here. So this is all public. So what I might do is, like I said, this map tells me great information about public and private land, but doesn't always have a lot of information about what's going on the ground there. So let's figure out some things here. So the satellite map that I'm using also has labels. So you can see all these little labels here. Hole in the ground. Okay, hole in the ground. Actually, that's a place that I know is pretty popular. I've never been there before. A lot of people talk about it as a destination. So let's plan a trip to hole in the ground. That'll work out great. So first thing I might want to do is create a waypoint there that I want to go to. So I just clicked on the waypoint button, and I'm going to grab that waypoint and put it right here. It's labeled there already, but this just kind of helps me find it easier by putting a waypoint. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save. So it automatically read the map and has put hole in the ground as the title. So that's going to work out great. Now, if it read the map and the title didn't really mean anything to you, then you can just go ahead and type whatever you want here. So all you have to do now is hit the close button, and now you have a waypoint. Now you can put more information in this waypoint, if you click on it, it'll bring back up the thing. And if you drop down here and go open details, we can click over and it's going to show me my waypoint there. So one of the things I can do is I can upload a photo. I don't ever do this, but you can upload a photo. So if you wanted to, if you went there and you like 10 years later, you're like, hole in the ground, what was that? You might have a photo that might help give you some information. Another thing that you can do from here is, you can obviously delete it or you can add it to a folder. I don't want to get too much into folders right now. I do use folders, and I'm just going to show you kind of a little bit here. I'm going to say add to folder, and you're going to see that I have a few different folders set up for different waypoints so that way I can kind of keep things organized. But we'll go into that like a little bit later. But basically you can keep stuff into different folders to help you kind of keep organized, so you don't have all your waypoints in one place and all your routes in one place and all your tracks in one place. You can kind of segregate things up a little bit and kind of have a little bit of a filing system. The other thing that you can do from here is you can download it to a GPX file or KML file. GPX seems to be more the standard that most all programs can import. So let's say you wanted to share this waypoint with somebody who doesn't use Gaia. You could download it as a GPX file and then email them that GPX file, and they should be able to import it into whatever mapping software they're using. The same with, you can do this with tracks, you can do this with routes, all those things. So this is how I also do the uploads to you guys when you guys want, like when I did the Bend to Alvord and I gave you guys all the waypoints and all the stuff. That's because, again, not showing you too much about this or spending too much time on this, I went into, I'm going to go back to explore the map, but we're going to go back to explore the map, and I'm going to go into my folders and I'm going to select Bend to Alvord, which has all my waypoints, all my tracks, everything to do with that trip from the Bend to the Alvord. So by looking at that folder, you can see the whole track. You can see all the waypoints that I have in there. I can also, it gives me how many miles it is. It's 375 miles. They're saying 4 hours, but it actually takes about a week. But it has, you can see here, it has all the tracks. It shows all the routes and also shows all of the different waypoints within there. So now if I want to send this to you guys like I have, all I would do is go into data and I could click on GPX file, and you can see right down here it saved a GPX file, and that GPX file has all this information in it. So now I can send it out to you guys, and you should be able to open it in any of the mapping softwares that you could possibly be using, or even Gaia, and be able to have all the information on this route. If you don't already have this information, you want it, just look through the Patreon. I've already uploaded it, and so it's there and available. So just look through some of the posts and it's there. So anyways, that's just a little bit about, how you can use folders to organize things. So now in the Bend to Alvord folder, I have all the waypoints for that route. I have all the tracks and routes and everything. So it makes it easy for me to be able to pull that route up without having all the other waypoints showing. Or if I want to send this information to somebody, it allows me to just send that information without sending them every single waypoint I have in Gaia. So little bit about folders. You can look more into that, but we're going to go back to exploring the map again, and we are going to work on creating a route from Bend, Oregon. That'll give us a good starting point. We're going to create a route from Bend, Oregon to Hole in the Ground. So that will allow us to kind of play with the route function in Gaia. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out so that I can see Bend, Oregon. Okay, so there's my hole in the ground. Bend is right here somewhere. There's Burns. China Hat, Bend. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select my route tool. It comes up and I'm gonna click on Bend. So that puts my first little point, and you can see now I've got a little indicator showing that it's trying to create a route. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my mouse. I'm just basically holding down my mouse button, my left mouse button, and dragging and moving the mouse. And I'm going to go back to find hole in the ground, which I've lost somewhere. I know it was out this way. Hole in the ground. There you are. So you don't have to have a waypoint to do this. Just letting you know, you don't have to have a waypoint to do this on there. You could have just selected hole in the ground. But so I want to get to this road here, which obviously looks like the closest road that's going to get me to the hole in the ground. And I'm going to get it over the road, and I'm going to click on the road. Now look how it automatically, I'm going to zoom out here, how it automatically created a route for me with all the roads I need to take to get from bend to hole in the ground. So that's super handy. So now all I have to do now, if I wanted to go somewhere else, I could continue the route. But for this point in time, I'm just going to hit save, and I'm going to say, you know, bend to hole in the ground. All right, so, and I can put some notes here and everything else, and I close it, and now I've got that route. If I want to go back into that route, I can just click on it, and it brings back up the route, and I can, you know, go in here and change some things. So one of the things I might want to change is edit the route. Now notice right here, I have it set to hiking. Okay, now what I have found, and this is something you're just going to have to play with different routes to figure the best way out. But what I have found, if I select hiking, it will choose the most direct dirt road path to wherever you're trying to go. If you choose driving, it's going to try to kick you out always to use paved roads to get you as close to it as possible using all paved roads. So if you're trying to figure out an overland route through some desert area, I always leave it set to hiking. I might play with it and click it back and forth just to see, especially if it tries to take me through hiking trails, and you have to be aware of that. So like in this case where I have it set to hiking, then what I need to do is I need to now zoom into the route that it selected for me and just follow it and make sure that it is all roads that it is selected for me and not hiking anything that looks like possibly a hiking trail or something that might be impassable. So one thing to think about too when you're doing these routes is you guys have seen me out in videos where I've done this and the routes didn't work out, like a road that the map showed is not there anymore or completely wiped out or something like that. So I use the routing function a lot like this to plan. Now what I'd have to do is go drive this route and make sure it actually works. And when I drive the route, what I'm going to do is in my tablet, I'm going to tell it to create a track. And I'll show you that in another video when we talk about just the tablet. But I'm going to tell it to create a track so that way I can follow my route. And if I have to make any adjustments around along the route, I can still, you know, kind of go along, and I'll have a track showing me everything so that when I come back later and I'm looking at it and I'm wanting to, you know, basically what I call finalize the route is saying, yes, this is a passable route. I'll have my track that I can pull up to overlay to so I can say, well, I had to take this road. So then I can adjust my route and make sure that it takes all the right roads that I have to take to be able to do it. But like I said, in my planning stages, I'll just run through the route here and just kind of scroll along and see if there's anything that looks like, this doesn't look like a good plan. But you can really see here, it's taken me through a lot of BLM land. And what I want to do too is I'm going to go back to my NeoTracks and turn that on, because I also want to see here, like here, it looks like it's driving me through some private land. Is that going to be a problem? You know, if I go through there, is there going to be easements through those pieces of private land? And there very well could be. This is one of the things. This is what makes this whole thing kind of fun is it gives you a good guideline to follow, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. So this is where the fun in driving the track comes into play, is you get to actually go and, you know, drive this track and see if it's going to, if it all is going to work out. Now, for the most part, I feel like it's pretty good. It looks like it brings me out highway, you know, a main highway to a point, and then kicks me off the highway onto BLM, which probably is going to be the best option for me to get there. And it's, I mean, I could go all the way down. Like if I did, let's see what happens. Let's scroll out on this and let's just see what happens if I switch it to driving. Let's see if it takes me, if it changes my route at all. So I'm going to get where we can really see a lot of the route, and then I'm going to go into edit route, and then let's change this to driving and see what it does. So yeah, so you can see it changed the route. It actually hauls me all the way out to Burns and then down another highway. I believe this is actually another highway. Yeah, French Glen Highway. And then kicks me into BLM that way. So, you know, it's going to be up to you guys what you prefer. If you want to make a whole trip out of it, you can keep it on hiking, and you can see it kicks me off into BLM as soon as it can and makes me drive through a whole lot more BLM, which might make that whole trip a whole lot more fun and more interesting. I can make a whole weekend out of it. But if I don't, I just want to find the most direct route via pavement, I can switch to driving, and you can see how it's adjusting for that. So a couple of different options there. But like I said, there's no like right or wrong here. It's just a matter of, you know, kind of what you want to do, or the experience you kind of want to get out of it. You know, by going, one of the things I can notice right now by following the track, that I go, oh, well, this is kind of cool. It takes me right by Glass Buttes, which is another location that is pretty popular for people to check out. So I might say, well, you know, what if I want to check out Glass Buttes? Well, what I can do here is I can say, well, it's going to pop me off right here. I can just say I want to create another route from here to here. And now I've got a little side route that I've added into my trip, and I can hit save, and I can say, you know, Highway 20 to Glass Buttes, and then close that. And so now that I've saved it and everything, so now I can see both routes. So if I'm going to decide to do this route, I can make a little side trip, come up, check out Glass Buttes, which is, I have never been there either. I tried to go there one trip, and things didn't quite work out, which was actually the trip that, if you guys seen the one video where I had done exactly this. I had created a route and let Gaia figure it out for me, and it turned out one of the roads was no longer passable. And so I had to, you know, kind of work my way around it, and things just didn't quite work out, which is happens. It's not a foolproof plan, but it's a great way to kind of figure out your way through here. So anyway, so now I've created a little side route here that will, you know, get me to Glass Buttes, and then I can, you know, if I want, then I can just hop back on and travel all through all this BLM land to get to Hole in the Ground. And like I said, another thing too about when you're going through and looking at everything, you know, so now I've gone through and kind of looked at everything, made sure that I feel like it's pretty safe for me to get through. I do see there's a couple pieces of private land. So one thing I could do here is that I see there's a tract of private land. So let's just look and see if it looks like it's just open land. So one of the easiest things I can do is turn off my Neo tracks, and I'm looking at it, and you can see it's just open land. So most likely this is going to be completely safe for me to travel through. It's going to be an easement. And here's kind of my rule of thumb. If there's no trespassing sign, then I'm okay driving through it. If there's a no trespassing sign, then you got to go around. So if there's not a no trespassing sign, there's nothing there telling you to keep out, you're probably very safe to drive through it. But if there is some kind of no trespassing sign, then you need to go around. So now another thing I could do is turn on my topo, And you can see that the topo just has a lot of little information about different things, and there might just be something along the route that is interesting. Like, what's this water hole? Is there really a water hole? I don't know. Let's turn off this layer and see. Well, it does kind of look like there's a bit of a water hole that you might be going through. Whether or not, depending on the time of year you go through there or not, whether there's water in it or not, might depend, but it does definitely look. So I might go, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I want to know about that. So I might just go ahead, or I might want to stop there and check that out. So I might just go ahead and throw another waypoint there, hit save. Again, it figured out the map, has it all named. So I'm just going to put that there. And now I've just added, added a waypoint in a point of interest that I might want to stop at along the way. So again, this is exactly the process I go through every time I start planning a trip. And this is exactly the process I went through when I created the trip, the Bend to Alvord trip, is I went and did this. Now let's say, let's take this a step further in what I did with the Bend to Alvord. So let's say I don't necessarily want to take Highway 20. That's the way it's taking me. Let's say I know a few things, like I know I can get to here probably all via dirt road and not have to take any highway from Bend. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another route, and I know that I can hit China Hat Road, and that will get me onto the kind of get me going here. So I'm gonna click here because this is kind of my starting point where China Hat Road will take you off into National Forest. And let's say I know I want to go to I want to go past this area here. So what I might just do is I might just say, okay, I want to get to here. And so let's see what it did here. How is it routing me? Okay, fine. It's routing me through. I'm not taking any highway. It's going to bring me all the way through here. So now, okay, now I want to go down to the Christmas Valley Sand Dunes. I want to go there first. So now I can look and see. I'm just going to drag back and see, okay, yeah, it's taking me all down through some area here. And now I want to get over to this water hole. All right, so now it's going to take me over to the water hole. And now I want to go from the water hole to hole in the ground. So basically, I was able to manipulate my route by just creating some more points along the route. So I hope that kind of gives you guys some ideas and stuff like that when you are looking through. So what I would do is, kind of look in an area, kind of scan the map, look for things that might be interesting, because this is where the maps really come in handy when it comes to locations you've never been into. So scan the maps, find things that you think would be interesting, and create some waypoints. Then once you got a few waypoints, then try to kind of connect the dots using the routing function, and so that you can explore those waypoints and find out what's interesting around it. When you're actually out in your vehicle and you're using the map on either your phone or tablet, make sure when you start your route, you start a track, so that way if you have to make any deviations from what the route shows, that when you come back later, that you can adjust and clean up your file a little bit and make your routes follow exactly your track. And then another thing too is you might, while you're on the ground, become aware of new things that maybe weren't completely aware through the map, and you went and checked it out. You'll have that track showing you, oh yeah, this is where I found that one little, watering hole, or I found this old, homestead out in the desert, or I found, whatever that you happen to find when you were out exploring these areas. But like I said, using the routing function in Gaia is very powerful, and it's really opened up for me a lot of options for finding out cool routes to get to different locations without taking the most direct or obvious route. So anyways, I'm just going to cancel because I'm not going to save that route. I wanted to show you guys a couple other things too. So I gave you guys, so one of the things that I talked about in a post here recently is about setting your datum and your coordinate system. Now, the one thing I don't like about Gaia is you cannot do that from the website. You cannot set your datum or coordinate system from the website. You have to go into the app and you go into your settings, and I'll show this again, and then into units. And then you can see that you can select your coordinate datum, which I have set for WGS84. And again, I'll show you this in another video more detailed. And then my coordinate system, which I had set for UTM. Another thing I don't like about the website is, again, I like to use UTM. And even though I have set everything to UTM through my tablet, that is not correlating to my to inside the web browser. It is forcing me to still continue to use decimal degrees, and I don't like that. So not my favorite. I really wish that once I set it in the tablet that it would reflect that throughout the, all the different interfaces. So it's a little bit confusing for me to have decimal degrees here and UTM on my tablet. So I really wish that I might even send in a little note to Gaia that this would be a nice feature that we could at least be able to set the datum and coordinate and datum, or the datum and coordinate system through Gaia, have it reflect here as well as on my tablet as the same so that it's the same all the way through. So I don't like this feature, but I just want to make you guys aware that if you do set it in your tablet to UTM like I have, and there's nothing that says you guys have to use UTM just because I do, I just prefer it. But if you do, it's not going to show UTM coordinates in the web interface. So that's frustrating. I find that a little bit frustrating. So anyways, if you do though, here's one thing though, if you do put in UTM coordinates, you can, like I give you UTM coordinates for Patreon, you can go up here and paste them in, which I'll need to grab some UTM coordinates. We'll just go to, I'll just really quickly log into my Patreon and go to that post, and I'll grab those UTM coordinates. And I'm going to grab those UTM coordinates. Okay, so I'm going to grab those UTM coordinates. All right. So even though it's showing decimal, the lat long decimal degrees in here, you still can come up here and hit paste. What it does though is it automatically converts it to decimal degrees again. And so, but if I click on that, it actually does take me to the camp spot. So you can see here's the camp spot, and I've already got a waypoint there, but it's probably hard to see, but they're asking me if I want to add a waypoint right there. So I actually can click the plus sign right here and be able to add a waypoint. So if I give you guys something and you're using Gaia, and even though it's UTM, you most definitely can still plug it right in up here to the search coordinates and be able to search that coordinate out and then quickly create a waypoint in that location. All right, guys. Well, I think that kind of shows you guys a few things about Gaia. I hope that will help, maybe opens up some ideas for you guys. Definitely play with the map layers, find map layers that work for you. You don't necessarily have to use the same ones I use. It's just, these are the ones that I choose to use. But you might find, looking through some of these, that you might find some that, just speak to you a little bit more. So, definitely kind of play with some of the different map layers. Play with creating waypoints and play with creating routes. And, that will, and I think as you kind of get to using the program and playing with those two features, that it'll open up a lot of options for you and kind of make your exploration and travel a little bit more exciting and fun. Anyways, again, I want to thank you guys for all your support. And if you guys liked this video and you thought it was useful and you want me to kind of do some more kind of walkthrough things, you know, maybe there's something specifically with Gaia that you're having a problem with, you know, let me know. And maybe we can just do some more of these kind of off the cuff. You know, I didn't plan for this. I'll be honest. I didn't do any type of planning. I just sat down at my computer and hit record and started, you know, telling you guys a few things that I thought were interesting that you might want to know. So, but if you like this, like I said, let me know and we can, you know, definitely do some more. And maybe you can even direct me to some things that you want me to, you know, talk about a little bit more. Anyhow, again, thanks for the support, and I'll catch you guys again outside.